For some people, the problem is not even about not finding the right books. The problem is not even about no time. The problem is now that I'm trying to read, I can't even concentrate. Now, let me tell you something. Our exposure, and this is not a slur on social media, our continual exposure to short form content, reels, YouTube shorts, short articles. In fact, in advertising now, they tell you that you should not make your video, if you make it your video longer than 30 seconds, you can lose your audience. That's how terrible attention span has become. Remember, I told you it's not so much about time management, it's about attention management, right? Now, short form content that we consume all the time has retrained our mind to not be able to stay with something as boring, in quotes, as reading a book. For most of us, our mind have been retrained not to even that long. You see that? We're unable to stay with books. Why? Because we've been trained subconsciously to only value short form content. And it has done something to our minds. So the healing process will start with consuming long form content and staying away as much as you can from short form content. And this means you will have to be intentional with the kind of content you expose yourself to. For some people, they may even have to do a social media fast because of the extent of influence that short form content has had on your mind. You will have to stay away from short form content for a while and accustom yourself with books. Accustom yourself with something that doesn't have a moving picture or moving image, zoom in, zoom out, ping here, a color here, and all of that, that keeps your mind engaged. Why? Because the proliferation of social media content today, there was this study that did an analysis that the average user today views more content than somebody in the 1600s will ever see in their lifetime. The average person in today's world views more content in a day than somebody who was living in the 1600s will ever see in their lifetime. You see that? So there is a science to your concentration problem, except maybe you have, of course, other forms of attention disorder such as ADHD and all of that. For that, I'll ask you to seek medical attention, right? But this is the science behind it. One of the ways you have to heal your mind is to stay away from short form content. Create for yourself an environment conducive to reading and prepare to push through internal and external distractions. You see that? Internal distractions are the things that trigger you to go check your phone. External distractions are things from the outside that could get your attention or take your attention away from the book you're reading. Internal distractions may be things or triggers that you get from the inside, right? To dump that book or to not, or even to keep the book in front of you, right? And be reading one line for 10 minutes. How many of you have experienced that? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments, please. How many of you have experienced that? You read one line for 10 minutes. Okay, Betty is saying, I'm not a fan of movies. People who aren't attached to phones. Beautiful. With that, I tend to have more time to myself when I'm not working, which I do from home also. Sincerely, I suddenly just became lazy. I've always loved reading since childhood. No one ever forced me to. Beautiful, beautiful. But then sometimes real life gets in the way. That's why, like I said earlier, you have to be very self-aware. You have to heal yourself. You see that? Because the problem may not necessarily be because you don't like reading. It may be because there's something else happening to you that on a subconscious level that you may not be aware of, right? Good. Marvelous Adelaja says, I have. Bobby says, I'm a victim. Okay, time for confession or confession time, right? Someone, especially when reading school books, absolutely, your mind begins to drift away. Andrew Alhamdu says, I've experienced reading one line 10 times. Exactly. Victory Agada says, me, I can't keep reading a line. I can keep reading a line repeatedly. Absolutely, that's true. It has happened to me too. So you will have to muster the courage and to muster your attention to be able to say to yourself, this is what I want to read, and this is the time frame within which I want to read it. And one of the things that can help you is to set up a timer. You have a 30-minute timer. It is reading, you are seeing it, your phone is showing it. For me, because I wanted to keep away digital distractions, I had to get an hourglass clock. Yeah, I had to go ancient. I had to get an hourglass clock. By the time I turn it, the time it takes for the upper chamber to fill, to empty down to the lower chamber is 1 hour. And I keep it like that, and I keep reading. I don't take my eyes off the book. I keep reading. I keep reading. From time to time, I might glance at the hourglass clock to see, okay, where are we? But not all of you have hourglass clocks, all right? But then I would recommend that you just put your alarm, put your phone on maybe whatever notification blocker you can have for those 30 minutes or even 15 minutes. You see that? Just put it there and say, for this 15 minutes, I'm going to read so and so number of books, of pages. You might say, I'm going to read 3 pages, I'm going to read 5 pages, and you're there, you're studying. More of that shortly, all right? I'll be showing you how to do that. Okay, so one of the first ways you can help yourself to concentrate is to remove yourself from environments that are that are full of distraction, right? Like I said, you are not time poor, you are distraction rich. You are not time poor, you are distraction rich. So one of the ways to help you concentrate is to create an environment conducive to reading and prepare to push through internal and external distractions. You're reading and something comes to your mind. Oh, I've got to do this. Okay, you just write it down. Okay, I'll do this later. Not to drop the book and get up and go and do it. No, that's internal distraction there. You just write it down and say, okay, I jot it down. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do this. Your mind will bring a lot of distractions. Oh, why don't you do this? You have not done that. You have not done that. You have to tell yourself, okay, hold on, hold up a bit. I'm reading now. After now, I'm going to go do my thing. I'm going to go do what you want me to do. I'll write it down so I don't forget. Go back to the book. Choose a convenient time when you're less likely to be distracted and read. Tune out distractions, and also, as as a precaution, or as as an added advantage, play non-lyrical music to aid your concentration. Non-lyrical music without words, just tones, all right, to help you immerse yourself in the moment and just read. Who is getting value from this session? Please let me see the comments. Let me see that in the comments. Let me see your feedback. Let me know that you are not distracted. All right. You're in this class to learn. You're in this class to make the best out of your 2025. Imagine how much better you would be. Imagine how much different your life would be if you are able, or when you are able to make the time this year to just say, you know what? I'm going to dig my heels in the ground. I'm going to give myself to growth. I'm going to study. I'm going to apply the things I'm learning. I'm going to be a different kind of person by June. I'm going to be a different kind of person by so and so time. And mind you, the changes happen every day. For every 2 minutes that you would have spent doing something like maybe attending to a distraction or scrolling endlessly on social media, those 5 minutes or those 1 hour or those 30 minutes that you spent binge watching something else that you invested in reading, it adds up. Everything works with the law of compounding. It all adds up. Believe me, it all adds up. It all adds up. Believe me when I tell you that it all adds up. You see that? Yes. Andrew Alhamdu says he had to pick up a red pen to highlight these action points to enhance my reading culture. Absolutely. 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 Aisha Suleiman said, oh, I'm getting value. I love how the tips are actually doable. Beautiful. Of course, the tips that should be doable, of course, they are practical tips, right? My toddler is a major distraction. Sheung says, how do I balance him and my focus? Bear in mind, I don't want to use screen. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to that in a moment because one of the things I'll be sharing with you is that reading will require some sacrifice from you. And that sacrifice would mean using your time differently. Using your time differently would mean that you would not necessarily have to be awake or be asleep when other people are awake. You will have to look for the greatest channel of your distraction and leverage times when that channel of distraction in quotes, because I can't say a kid is a distraction. No, that's your son, right? Aha. But in the context of reading, he takes away your attention from that book, right? From that process. So is he always awake? He's a baby. He can't be always awake. He needs rest, right? So there are times where that baby will be hibernating, and you can take 30 minutes or 1 hour away from that time to build yourself, and then give the baby time when, of course, he's awake. Or there's something that Stephen R. Covey would say, that at certain stages of your life, you might want to shut down some areas of your life so that you can give your best to the most demanding area of that time, because the opportunity may not always be there. For instance, you may want to, if you're doing 1 book a week, 2 books a week, you may want to start using audiobooks now because you have children. Maybe you have a set of twins, you have a baby. Audiobooks have their limitations, but now for this stage of life, that baby will not be young forever, and that baby will not be young again. So you bond with them within that time. Let them know you, because this is an opportunity, it's a lifetime opportunity. So it's not necessarily about being rigid per se. It's about being adaptable. Consistency is not so much about discipline. It's about creativity and adaptability. All right. Now, thank you very much. I'm seeing the comments. Thank you. Thank you. Marvelous is saying, I try to listen to audiobooks while doing my chores. It has been effective. Absolutely. The only disadvantage being that I don't get to note salient points. True. And one of the tricks of audiobooks is that you cannot read an audiobook once and say you have gotten the lessons. That would be a blatant lie. It means you're not being truthful to yourself. On average, you need to listen to a piece of audio at least 7 times for you to be able to get the idea into your head. See that? So that's why books are important. Books give you that advantage of sitting down, getting the best out of it, making markers on the book, making notes, so that you can only go through it once and get the best out of it. But for audios, you will have to listen at least 7 times to get the best out of it. But you can leverage that. You can use commute time, the times you drive in the morning. You can use 1 week. Listen to it over and over again, as much as you can until it sticks. All right. So for some people, let's quickly move on. For some people, the excuse is, I prefer articles. Some people say, I prefer articles. And there's nothing wrong with preferring articles. Articles serve you knowledge, yes, but they only serve you knowledge in bits and pieces. In bits and pieces. I wrote here that most articles feed you knowledge like a pigeon, one scattered grain at a time. Imagine if, for instance, you started school and then one of the ways, or instead of starting from kindergarten, or maybe you started from kindergarten, for instance, and then somebody from primary 5, a teacher from primary 5 came to your kindergarten and started teaching you simultaneous equations, or started teaching you lowest common factor, LCM, HCF, highest common factors. at nursery 1, at nursery 2. That knowledge is not invalid. It is useful. But you don't have the building blocks yet to be able to understand what that body of knowledge entails. You don't have it yet. There are certain books that I have read, I had to drop them to read an earlier version that had been published before. There are certain articles when I read them, yes, I finished reading them, but I didn't understand what the author was saying, quite honestly, because I wasn't used to that field. So I had to now start taking each of the subject matter spoken about and started dissecting them in silos, started reading up on them individually. And then when I came back to the article, I said, okay, this is what this guy meant. This is how this connects to this. This is how this connects to that. You see? So knowledge is incremental. Knowledge is in compounding. Knowledge compounds, right? But articles they are meant for research, really. When you're reading a book, maybe there's part of history or something you really want to get across, something you just want to get a better understanding of. You can go Google it and then come back. But I don't advise you to do that when you're reading because that's distraction already. You can underline this and say, okay, I'm going to look this up. The goal is to maintain a steady reading habit. You want to minimize distraction as much as possible, right? So articles give you one scattered brain at a time, like a pigeon. And I know we are not pigeons here. We're human beings, okay? So books, however, they serve you information in a structured whole. And structure aids learning. That's why you were not taught simultaneous equation in nursery 2. That's why they didn't teach you, depending on the course you studied, they didn't teach you Schrodinger equation in primary 5 or in SS1, right? If you were in SS1, for instance, they didn't teach you about, maybe they didn't teach you about, what's this thing now? They didn't teach you about the gas laws in JSS2. Boyle's law, Avogadro's law, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, all of those laws, sophisticated laws that requires high brain power to understand. They didn't bring it at kindergarten level or at the earliest levels. They needed building blocks to mature you for those kind of knowledge. So structure aids learning. Also, the way you read online is not the way books are to be read. I'll explain. Now, for articles, most people read articles. They don't necessarily read articles. We skim through articles. There's professionals call it the F pattern. You don't read, and most people don't read an article from left to right like you read a book. The eye movement is different for an article. The eye movement you need to read an article is different from the eye movement you need to read a book. Well, you see? So there's the F pattern, but then there's for books now, right? But then there's the, how do I put it now? The gorilla pattern for articles. You look at this word, you jump to this, you jump to that. And this is based on research, right? Based on people who put articles on their website, news agencies who monitor how people read their content. It is not the same. The way you read online is different from the way books are to be read. So if you feed so much on reading online, or if you depend so much on reading online articles alone, you do something to your mind that makes you incapable, in quote, of getting the best of books. You have to train your mind to be able to get comfortable with the reading pattern meant for books. Is that making sense to you?